What's up, guys? This is the Osmo.com Night Shift Podcast. We're talking MLB for Friday, June 15th. Huge slate as always. We're going to get into it. But first, I want to talk about Osmo.com. Go to Osmo.com. Check out all of our premium packages. We've got a lot of content coming out for you for MLB, free and premium. It is just going really well, and I think our subscribers are liking what they've gotten so far. With that premium subscription, you get access to the rankings by Osmo himself, as well as ownership projections, which are my favorite thing. They really help me when I'm trying to multi-enter. So let's get into this slate. 15 games. I'm going to go through this really quick. Each game, just talk about a couple things. Pitchers are kind of my thing, so I'll mention a few things, hopefully, about each pitcher, if they're worth noting. All right, Miami and Baltimore. We've got Jose Urena against Kevin Gausman. Urena is a guy that I'm not usually looking to play, but Baltimore is almost too good of a matchup for me to just cross Urena off. It is a 5 total for Baltimore here at home. It's 80 degrees, a little bit of wind blowing in right now. We're obviously a very long way away from lock, but I think Urena is going to be one of the guys I'm looking to punt with because I don't necessarily like this pitcher slate. I like a few guys, but I wish I liked a few more. I think ownership's going to be concentrated around some guys that I like, which worries me on a 15-game slate. So, Baltimore bats, really, I only liked Machado at the first look, but seeing this 5 total, I don't know that I can get to a stack against Urena. He's pretty good against righties, and I'm not crazy about Jace Peterson, Chris Davis, or Chance Sisco, which it looks like the lefties will be against Urena. Gausman, on the other hand, looks like a fantastic option to me. Over his last 4 games, his swinging strike rates are 23.6, 12.2, 18.6, and 14. Plus, he's getting the chases. We like to see over 30% whiffs per swing this month. That's only a couple starts, but still, everything checks out for Gausman. For me here, 8,500, I'm willing to do that on a lot of my lineups. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Matt Harvey against Chad Kuhl. Not really two guys that I can see myself playing here. Harvey, 5.5 xFIP, 40% hard contact, 15% K rate, and lots of fly balls. Those numbers are all for lefties. So I think all the Pittsburgh lefties make sense here. Dickerson, Colin Moran, Josh Bell, Gregory Polanco. You can mix in Cervelli. He's hit righties really well this year. And Harvey's not a guy I'm looking to, or not really a guy I'm scared of stacking against, and I don't think anybody should be scared of stacking against Matt Harvey at this stage in his career. So Pittsburgh bats, certainly on my radar. 5-run total here. Warm weather, 80 degrees. The slightest wind blowing out right now. Kuhl is 6,700 at home. I don't know that I love the idea of playing Kuhl here, but he is 6,700 against a Reds team that there are some strikeouts to be had, specifically near the bottom of this order with Peraza and Hamilton. Well, not necessarily Peraza, but pitcher spot, Hamilton. Winker's more of a contact guy. I don't know. I can make a case for Kuhl, but not someone that I'm super pumped about trying to force into my lineups. And same thing with Cincinnati bats on this huge slate. Tampa Bay and New York Yankees, Nathan Eovaldi against Jonathan. I got this pronunciation down. Loaisiga. Jonathan Loaisiga. Anyways, I looked that up on Baseball Reference. You can see the pronunciation on there. But he's coming up from Double-A. Only threw 49 pitches in his last outing, and then 77 in the 2 before that. So he hasn't thrown a full workload in a while, and for that reason, I'm probably going to be off of him for 6,400, even in a good matchup against the Rays. Eovaldi, I don't really like him here. 5,300 going into Yankee Stadium, just a really tough spot for a guy that throws a lot of fastballs, and I actually am pretty excited about the Yankees stack. 5.2 run total here. They're always in play when they're at home and against a guy that we think is pretty average at best. I think Eovaldi's velocity was dropping from his first start to his next couple, but I'm going to check on that after the show. and we'll talk more about Eovaldi tomorrow, as well as the Yankees stack. Washington and Toronto, Gio Gonzalez against Aaron Sanchez. Gio is great against lefties. Like, the numbers look awesome. Average against righties, maybe a little above or below average, depending on what you're looking at. But it's a pretty boring matchup here against the Toronto righties. He's 8,800, not really at a price point that I'm excited to play him at. And then the Toronto bats, really just Teoscar Hernandez for me sticks out, but nothing too exciting in terms of that matchup. Aaron Sanchez, definitely not going to him here. This Nats lineup is not one that I want to attack anytime soon when they have Eaton and Daniel Murphy back. Just seems really deep, and in my opinion, one of the best lineups in the MLB against righties specifically. So I'm going right back to the Washington bats. Sanchez is striking out fewer than 14% of lefties with a 6.57 xFIP against them, and also giving up a ton of pulled balls. So my boy Daniel Murphy, Adam Eaton, Bryce Harper, Matt Adams, and I mean, they're all on the top of my list. And then I have no problem throwing in the righties as well. And I like that their run total is only 4.5. I mean, Sanchez is a fine pitcher, but sort of been inconsistent this year. So I am all over some Nationals bats. Minnesota and Cleveland. Kyle Gibson against Corey Kluber. Gibson's actually been solid against lefties, but I can't go to him here on the road in Cleveland. Lindor and Ramirez both make for solid plays, both hitting and then on the base paths. I think Gibson has a 71% success rate in terms of people stealing against him over the last few years. So those guys, just a little bit of extra upside baked into them. You're going to have to pay up for them, of course, but I like them as one-offs. I mean, I can always throw in Brantley, but I do respect Gibson as a pitcher, so probably won't be going full Cleveland stack too often. Corey Kluber looks like his elite self again. There are some decent pitching options on this slate. I think Kluber's probably the safest of them. Only a 3-run total for the Twins here. I mean, I have no problem going to Kluber here. It's 13.6, so if you can afford him, if you like one of the cheap guys that we already mentioned, if you like Aaron Sanchez, or if you like Urena or Cool, or really anyone that's super cheap, then Kluber looks like a really nice SP1. It's just going to be a matter of whether or not you're able to fit the bats you want in with Kluber. San Diego and Atlanta, Clayton Richard against Brandon McCarthy. It's always going to be righties against Richard for me. So I don't think I'm playing Clayton Richard. I do really like Ozzie Albies, Tyler Flowers, or Kurt Suzuki, whoever is in there catching for the Braves, and then Swanson, even down to Johan Camargo. These guys have all hit lefties pretty well this year, and I have Atlanta as being one of the best teams against lefties overall for the year. I don't like taking lefties against Clayton Richard, but it's going to be hard for me to leave Freddie Freeman off a stack, so just sort of a mental block for me there, trying to leave Freeman off a Braves stack just because he's their best hitter. McCarthy, 5,900 against the Padres, will probably have some ownership, but I think I can pass on him pretty easily on a 15-game slate, especially if he's going to be above double digits or something like that, because he just doesn't have the strikeout upside. I mean, every once in a while he'll put together a weird 20-plus point DK start, but just not someone I'm looking to play when he's going to be owned. So maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe he'll show up at 2% or whatever on the ownership projections tomorrow morning, but I think people will want to play him just because of that price and because it's against San Diego at home. Colorado and Texas, Chad Bettis against Yohander Mendez. All right, this one has an 11 total. This one is going to be one of the marquee games of the slate. 96 degrees in Texas. So Bettis is just such a meh average pitcher for me. He has a weirdly low xFIP. Despite him not, I don't think he's a great pitcher. Doesn't grade out very well in my model. Doesn't really miss bats. He just looks thoroughly average. So I never really know what to do with those guys. But 5.5 total means that Texas bats will be owned. I'm not sure how much I'm going to have of them, but the guys I will have are Mazzara, Beltre, Gallo, Odor. Just such good hitting weather here in Texas. And the wind's blowing in, or at least showing it's blowing in right now, but it doesn't really matter in Texas all that much. Just that 96 degrees will help the ball carry regardless. Mendez, so he's 4,400. I wonder if he's going to have ownership, but it is Colorado. They do have a 5.6 total. Mendez is pitching in one of the worst pitching environments in the MLB, and he's pitched just 2/3 of an inning in the majors this year. Looks like a pretty decent pitcher at AAA, but I can't play him in this park against some Rockies that I respect, against lefties, specifically Story, Arenado, and Chris Iannetta, if he's in there. Detroit and Chicago, the White Sox. We have Mike Fiers against Reynaldo Lopez. Fiers gives up a lot of hard contact and fly balls to both sides. Not seeing anything special with the xFIP. Not seeing anything where I need to dig into him all that much. I think that the White Sox bats make for pretty good plays here. I'm excited about Moncada for 3,700. I don't know why this guy never gets priced up. Same with Palka. Same with Abreu. Same with Matt Davidson. These are all guys I'll have healthy amounts of in my crunch. I think the White Sox stack may go a little bit under-owned, but I will be over the field right now for the ownership that I'm projecting. Maybe I could be wrong, and tomorrow morning maybe they're one of the chalkier stacks, but with a 4.6 run total, I don't think that a lot of people are going to be super pumped about playing a team that isn't all that great. Lopez, 5,900. Detroit bats, no interest in really either side of this one, except maybe Leonis Martin. He just comes up high in my model because he hits the ball so hard against righties. Doesn't really strike out that much. So he's really the one-off that I like on the Detroit side. But other than that, I'll move on to Philadelphia and Milwaukee. Jake Arrieta against Brent Suter. Arrieta giving up just 24% hard contact on the year, which is shockingly low. That's one of the lowest I've seen for any pitcher this deep into the season. I still like some of the Brewers lefties, specifically Yelich and Shaw, but I mean, I'll throw Thames in there if you're going for a Brewers mini stack. This game is not one of my favorites. Suter on the other side is kind of an annoying pitcher to target against because he can strike out some righties, gets some called strikes, not a lot of hard contact, so just generally frustrating. But Altherr for 3,300, Santana for 4,200, and Rhys Hoskins for 4,300, all against a lefty, seem a couple $100 underpriced to me at least. Houston and Kansas City, Charlie Morton against Jake Junis. Morton is a nice discount on Kluber, but I'll say I don't think this is a spot where he has huge upside against the Royals. Kansas City is bad, but they have the lowest K rate on the year against righties by a good margin. And Morton's swinging strike rate has been on the decline after his first 5, maybe 7 starts. Even against Texas, he had sort of a weird bad start in a spot where I thought he should just kind of roll. So I'm a little bit lower on Morton than most people. Junis on the other side, he's also a weird one to me because he's getting a lot of whiffs lately, but is allowing a ton of runs, and the results just haven't really been there. So it's hard not to trust Vegas here, especially when you look at the weather. So 5.5 run total for the Astros, 92 degrees, wind blowing out almost 15 miles an hour right now. And if that sticks, the Astros are going to be one of the chalkier stacks of the night, and you sort of have to go with the weather there, go with the guys. You could just see so many pulled balls getting lifted out in Kansas City by these good righties the Astros have. Chicago and St. Louis, John Lester against Michael Wacha. Low total for this game, lower than I would have expected. Right now it's 7.5. This could change by the time you're listening to it, but no real interest in Lester at this price against 7 to 8 righties. And I probably stack against Lester more than most people. It's treated me okay. But the reason I stack against Leicester, and it's in specific spots like this, where you've got a bunch of righties in a row. He's awesome against lefties, kind of like Clayton Richard, or I should say Richard's kind of like Leicester, but whatever way you want to put it. But I think Pham and Harrison Bader both have some stolen base upside here. Both have swiped a handful of bags. And then I like a bunch of these righties individually against Leicester, so that should lead me to a stack, just logically. And I probably will have some St. Louis, and I don't think it's going to take me much to be over the field on them. I'm not liking Waka for 9,400 when I can play Gaussman, or I can just punt on guys that I think have a lot higher upside. And it's not even a good matchup for Waka, in my opinion. So I've got him being pretty lucky as well against both righties and lefties. So I think Contreras and Chris Bryant will go pretty under-owned, and they look like they're a few $100s too cheap as well. So I guess we can move on to LA and Oakland. We have Tyler Skaggs against Chris Bassett, I believe it's going to be. I don't know much about Bassett. I just know that he had a good start against Kansas City, 7 innings pitched, 6 Ks, but not really seeing much that I like about him. He's 5,800. That's about all I can say that's good about Bassett. But Skaggs on the other side, over the last month, the A's, so Skaggs' opponent, the A's against lefties over the last month, near 25% K rate, the worst on-base percentage, and a 65 WRC plus. So on paper, this looks like a great matchup for Skaggs. $9,300, probably enough to get a lot of people to turn elsewhere, but I will be turning towards Skaggs here, and he's one of the guys I'm curious to see ownership on. Mets and Diamondbacks, Seth Lugo against my boy Zach Godley. I don't know if he's going to be my boy tonight. I think he makes for a fine play. You just never know with Godley, and you haven't really known. He had a really good start in Coors Field because of course he did. I mean, he was low owned in Coors Field, went 5 2/3, 8 strikeouts. Not all that surprising because he is a guy that has really good stuff, but just sort of tilting if you've been on Godley and then you got off of him in Coors, and he throws together 8 strikeouts in almost 6 innings. I think he can do the same here. He's a guy that last year went in these big stretches where he was fantastic for 5 or 6 straight starts, and then he would kind of fall apart a little bit. Doing that this year too, but I'm not sure why it would be. It seems like everything checks out for him to be a good pitcher, and the season numbers look okay as far as the swinging strikes and stuff, but Godley's just a guy that I'm having such a tough time figuring out this year. Lugo on the other side actually grades out okay for me as a value, 7,100. I want to see what his pitch count has been like. I'm still worried about this D-backs team as of late, but he's someone I could see myself mixing in. And then Arizona bats, the reason I may not be having too much Lugo is because of Descalso and Peralta and Lamb. Those contact numbers they have against righties this year really, really worry me, especially in that park. Boston and Seattle. Porcello against the Seattle bats. Really nothing sticks out to me either way. I'm not a big Porcello guy, but I am a big Paxton guy. And I hope he's super contrarian. I don't think he will be because of the 3.4 run total for the Red Sox. And then Paxton being at home here. But I hope that people are scared of this Red Sox matchup. I have them as being one of the best matchups for a left-handed pitcher on this season, which is really weird, but I'm glad to see Vegas is showing him huge respect with only a 3.4 run total. That's pretty shocking to see. So I really, really like Paxton, and we'll talk about him more tomorrow. Giants-Dodgers, last game of the night. Derek Holland going for the Giants, Stripling for the Dodgers. I think Stripling is really overpriced here, 9,800. He's fine, but not a 10K pitcher. So I'll just leave it at that. And then Holland, you want the righties against him. You want Justin Turner and Matt Kemp and Chris Taylor and maybe even Austin Barnes for 2,800. The Dodgers look a little bit underpriced and could go under-owned, them being the last games of the night. People like the instant gratification. But as a late-night hammer, I like me some Dodgers here. So that's going to do it for the night shift. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Huge slate tomorrow, 15 games. So get started on your research while listening to this. Check out Osmo.com for the spotlight hitters, pitchers, and stacks. And then we will have the strategy video tomorrow morning, as well as the live stream with Josh and Chris. Good luck, guys.